Welcome everybody back to the podcast. I'm joined today with Dr. Tanil Lasker Scott, Dr. T. Thank you for joining us, number one. I appreciate you spend some time with us. Tell me a little bit about where you grew up and your youth.
Okay, so I grew up in Conway, Arkansas, which I believe is the best city in Arkansas. I am the fourth of 6 children. I grew up in a very large family. I grew up around my family, so I grew up on a city street named after my dad's last name, and so I grew up around all of my first cousins, but I grew up outside of the city limits, so I actually grew up on a family farm. So I grew up slopping pigs, and that's what I did every morning. I got up at 5 a.m., I did what I was supposed to. My mom would have what she wanted me to go pick out in the garden and bring it to the kitchen. So I grew up with a mother who was a homemaker, but she also had her own business. So she had her own home daycare. So I grew up eating like fresh food, but I grew up with a home cooked meal all the time. I grew up in a 2-parent home and being bullied by 3 brothers that I love. I love to death, I love them, but I grew up in a very close-knit community, and I love my upbringing. But I grew up with my mother, who did not graduate from high school, and my father did. He was the last class of the Pine Street Polar Bears, and so that was before integration. And he was the last class of the black high school in Conway.
And they were called the Polar Bears in Conway, Arkansas.
I know. They were called the Pine Street Polar Bears, and we have so many jokes about that, but I thought it was hilarious. So he went from a polar bear to a Conway Wampus cat, to which he was like, at least the polar bears were actual animals. Right. But yeah, so I had a very great upbringing. I'm very blessed and lucky.
It's kind of very similar. So my dad didn't graduate high school.
Okay.
My mom, that's all she did. And I have 3 older sisters who love to pick on me. So it's kind of a weird comparison.
Yeah,
there.
we're like mirror opposites.
Right.
Yeah.
And so you grew up in Conway, and I know from talking to you, you had an interesting path as you navigated college and your higher education. And something that is a little bit inspirational. So could you share us about how that kind of, tell us about your path as you navigated all that.
Okay, so I went straight to college after high school, awarded academic scholarships, and like some, I went to school in the same city that I lived in, so it almost felt like I was in the 13th grade rather than being like a college freshman. And in my sophomore year, I became pregnant with my first son. And at that time, holding down a job, facing my becoming a mother for the first time and going to school was just hard. So I decided to just stop into work for a while. But my loving parents were very encouraging. My family was very encouraging. And at that time, I had a brother who he had graduated Hendrix, and he was doing his own thing in education. And so my whole family was like, you need to go to school. So I decided at that time to re-enter college, but to go to Pulaski Tech College. I wanted to go to smaller classrooms. I needed a little bit more attention. So I went there, did very well, and received a transfer scholarship to attend UALR. So I went to UALR, I completed my bachelor degree there, and so I have a degree in human resource organizational development, but then it was HR management. So I have a degree in HR management and one in business administration, and with an emphasis in industrial relations, labor and industrial relations. And from there, I decided to stop after I graduated. I was like, okay, I'm going back into the working world. And I did for a year. And I was already like, you know what, I need to go back, I need to get my master's. And what spoke to me is adult education. I love the training and development part of human resources, and there were not many graduate programs for human resources. And what I saw was adult education was a great collaboration of business management, education, workforce education, workforce management, and I decided to get my master's degree in that. From that, I submitted my application to be an SREB fellow, which is the Southern Region Education Board. I received a doctoral fellowship, and I attended the University of Georgia. We won't talk about what year that was. It was a little bit ago, but I went to the University of Georgia, which was or is the #1 university for my discipline of adult education and human resource organizational development. I was very blessed, had a wonderful, wonderful experience within education, just learning, researching, but it was also a wonderful experience to raise my children and for them to get to see their mother just go through all of the trials and tribulations of graduate school and becoming, going through my doctoral studies. And so it was a very, very beautiful experience, and I'm very lucky.
Well, Georgia, it is a beautiful place.
It is a beautiful
and when
place.
you say it's a great time, a great place, and a great experience for your kiddos, I can definitely see that. So you get done with your PhD.
Yes.
And then what's your next step from there?
Okay, so this is a personal testimony, but when I graduated 3 years prior, my father passed. And like I said, I come from a big family. I'm the 4th of 6 children, the eldest daughter. And if you know anything about being Southern, as the oldest daughter, you have certain responsibilities. And my mother was still here in Arkansas, and at that time, all of my siblings were here also. But my mother was starting to show the signs of dementia, and so I said, I'm coming home. And so, and that sounds great to say that you're coming home, but when you finish your doctoral journey and you graduate, saying I'm coming home doesn't mean that you're going to find a job.
Right. Exactly.
And so I was looking at all of the universities and had people sending me things, and my brother actually found out about the position in, at that time, professional studies, and he sent the application to me and said, you have to apply for this. This is everything that you do. And I applied during spring break, and the very next week, Tech was like, you want to come in and do an interview? And it just so happened that I was coming to see my mother anyway. And so I came, got a chance to see my mom, spend some time with my family, but I applied for the position. And before I even left, they were like, okay, we want to do another interview with you. And I said, okay. And so my next interview, because they had a couple of people they wanted to interview, so my next interview was maybe a few weeks after that. And from that point on, I've been here at Tech. And so this is the only job I've had since I graduated from UGA.
That's awesome. You know, I've heard that story, not that exact story, about how people, they get here, and, you know, not typically, it's their first job after they get done with their doctoral studies, and something about it drew them here, and something about it kept them here. Excuse me. And I think it's no campus is perfect, but I think it also speaks to, there's something about Arkansas Tech that speaks to us. And I was talking to somebody else earlier today, maybe, that, it's a university. I like to think of it as a university. You see the first generation students, it's a university of access, a university of opportunity, and something, as you and I have talked, I think that may be something that's kind of an important thing to you as well.
Oh, that's my #1 thing, to reach students like myself, first generation, low income, diverse communities, but mainly first generation and low income. They have my heart, and I will do whatever I can to help those students achieve educational success. And I just want to enrich their journey, be a part of their journey. So many first generation and low income students come to universities and they feel out of place. And I think that one of the greatest things we can do as educators is make ourselves more human. Talk to our students, tell them about our trials and tribulations. And I definitely tell them about the ups and downs, being a single mother, then being a married mother of two, and all of the things that comes with. And I'm very fortunate that even in our program, we have a lot of first gen, a lot of low income adult students, and that just speaks to my heart. I'm able to use, of course, all of the theories and philosophies that I've learned during my doctoral journey, but being here, being in the dirt, talking to your students and hearing the different stories that they have, and how we can help them achieve their goals is just, it's phenomenal, and it is definitely one of the reasons why I've stayed.
So you kind of mentioned this, but so I think it kind of opens the door for this as you talk about the students in your program. So
Yes.
tell me about your program. So you said you came in with professional studies, and I know it's kind of morphed now.
Yes.
So tell me about the program you're in now, and kind of some of the courses and things that the students get out of the courses, the program, and being with Dr. T.
So the program that we're in is organizational studies, and we have an undergrad in organizational studies, but we also have a graduate degree in organizational leadership. And I think that we do a great job collaborating workforce education with management and HR personnel, and it's like all together, but our main goal is to help students become better collaborators in organizations, to understand how organization people building works. A lot of people talk about organization building, and it's all management of how to manage this program, how to manage this project, and we're more about how to manage the people, how to grow your culture, how to be an inclusive organizational culture for everyone, but how making the organization climate and environments more inclusive and better for your employees will make a far more productive workforce. And so we collaborate with the College of Business, we collaborate with Agri, we collaborate with a lot of departments here. We have several tracks with our degrees, and one of the things that I believe speaks to our degree plan even more is that we are online. We are all about meeting the needs of students. So we have a lot of students who are definitely not in the Russellville area. We have a lot of students who actually live in the Delta, and who live in the lower parts of Arkansas, who they love this degree, but of course they can't travel here. We have so many students who have to work 40 hours a week. We have students who work 50 hours a week, and because of our instructors and our lived experiences, because we are our lived experiences, we have such a great atmosphere that we open it up to our students and we let them know, like, we are definitely here for you. So call us whenever you need us. If you need a meeting and it's at 6 p.m. after you get off, if it's at 7 p.m., we'll meet at 6 p.m. We'll meet at 7 p.m. I have meetings with students on Saturdays. Now that's not what I want to do, but it is about understanding that I was once that student.
Meeting them where they're at.
Now that, if you're talking about a motto, that is my motto, meeting people where they are. That's in, whether it be in undergraduate work or if it's in graduate studies, and especially in graduate studies, I believe that. So I think that's a motto of, I know it's definitely a motto of mine, but I believe it's one for our department also.
And I think it speaks to, and I know that there's other institutions, right, out in the real world, not just Arkansas Tech, but I think that as I've gotten to know more folks across campus, that's a shared, maybe not those exact words, but we're here to help people better their lives.
Yes.
And they leave here not with just a degree, but with a transformed philosophy, a transformed self. And I could go on and on about this. But it also, what you were alluding to, also speaks to something else I want to ask you about is mentorship.
Yes.
And I know that that's a big piece of your heart and it's a big piece of your why and that kind of stuff. So I wanted to ask about whether it's like an individual or a registered student organization, RSO or whatnot. What is your philosophy when it comes to mentoring these young? I say young people, and they're not always young. Maybe sometimes they're non-traditional, but you find somebody and they're a mentee and you're trying to polish them or you're trying to help them as they along their path. What are some of the things that you talk about, or what's your philosophy? Kind of talk me through some of that. I don't know how good of a question that is.
No, I get it. Well, being the child of a two-parent home that was very strict and religious, but very, very encouraging. But having parents who did not accomplish obtaining a degree from a higher education basically meant that I was going to have to be dependent upon other outside people, right? So I needed mentors, and I wasn't shy about saying, hey, I don't know how to do this. Hey, I've never been here before. Hey, how do I write this? Imposter syndrome is real, okay? And I still deal with it today. There's still a part of me that is very first gen, low income, and is like, am I supposed to be here? Can I say that? But I have gained some
apologizing for your success.
Yeah, almost like, well, if you don't mind, here's my point of view.
Yeah.
But what I have tried to do as a mentor was something that one of my mentors did, and her name is Dr. Juanita Johnson Bailey. She was my chair at UGA, but one of the things she said is, Tennille, you have a lot of talent, you just don't know it. And she was like, it's my job to help bring that talent out. And she was like, whether you let it shine like a flashlight or you let it shine like the sun is up to you. But it's up to me to help you discover that talent. So that's one of the things that I do, and that's the approach that I take to mentorship. I believe that everyone has a talent. Everyone has they're a gem that just needs to be, just shined up just a little bit, right? And so that's what I try to do. I try to get to know them. So meeting students where they are. What do you like? Even when it comes to communication, how do you want me to communicate with you? I have so many, especially first gen students, that have never had anyone say, how would you like to communicate? I've had students say, what do you mean? And I said, well, do you want to communicate by text? Do you want to email? Would you like to have some video meetings? Do you want to come by my office? Do we need to take a lunch? And I have students say, I've never been given that many options. I don't know what to say. And I said, well, what makes you feel comfortable? Because making you feel comfortable is going to allow me to see that talent. Because when you feel comfortable with someone, you kind of you become more yourself, and it's easier to see that talent. And that's one of the things that I do. I like to take students outside of campus. So we like to do community work. We like to travel outside of just this smaller community to other parts. But I like for them to go and talk to other professors. I like to introduce them to topics, even study abroad, that a lot of our students, especially our first generation and low income students, just the thought of going abroad is scary and something that they would have never imagined doing. So that's my first thing, is getting to know people, telling my story to make them feel comfortable, but also just getting more of who they are and their needs. So it's almost like doing a needs assessment, but it's a very personal needs assessment. So that's one of the things that I like to do. But I think so often some of our best leaders are just unfounded, right? They're under they're under a lot of pressure of just graduating. And so I look at it as my job to kind of help them have a better experience, a more, let's say, fruitful experience in college. And I think that mentorship definitely helps them become better leaders here. We have a lot of, I say young adults, like you were saying, we have a lot of students who would if they were given the opportunity, but no one gives them that opportunity. So I'll look for those who I know could shine, just given a little bit of help, a little push.
Right, and interesting you said push, because when I taught classes, is some students need a little push.
Yes.
And some need the carrot, and some needs a couple more not so gentle pushes, right?
Yes.
But it's kind of the same thing. It's like, you see a student and you're like, that student needs some work, but they have that light is yet to shine. But when it does, it's not just going to be a flashlight; it's going to be the sun.
Right.
And I think that's super important. So to kind of close it out, I actually thought of another question as we were talking, so I apologize.
Oh.
This is unscripted. She doesn't know this question's coming. Is thinking about first generation students and how you grew up in a certain household, and the transition into that first experience at UCA for you and whatnot. If you could give advice to other students that may have that same experience, whether it's at this university or elsewhere, but they're a first generation student, they're coming to university, and it's a goal, it's a dream, but it's scary.
Oh my God.
It's overwhelming. If you could just reach out and just say something to them, what would it be, or some advice? What do you think you would share?
Oh, it's so much. First and foremost, you are definitely not alone. I think there's a stigma to being first gen that should not be there. But one of my things that I say is use this to your greatest advantage. When you don't know, it allows you to actually get way more experience, because when you don't know what to do and when you don't know what's coming ahead, although it does sound scary, it actually opens you up to learning far more than you would than if you kind of already had a path lined out for you. So one of the things that I would say as a first generation low income student is take the leap and try to do everything. I know it sounds crazy and you're like, I can't do all of that. It's not about do all of that. Gaining the experience. You don't know what you don't like. You don't know what you're good at. You don't know what you're not good at until you at least try. So my thing is try everything that you want. And then when you figure out, okay, this isn't for me, that is totally fine. That's a part of college life, no matter what age you are, and that's just a part of life. But my thing is always give it your all, and never feel ashamed of who you are, where you come from, and how hard you've worked to just be where you are now.
I think that's a great way to say thank you.
Thank
It's
you.
good advice, and I really appreciate you taking time to join me today.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Dr. T, everyone.